Hello, hello. Figured we would jump on here for a little bit of chat. This is unannounced as usual. Again, this falls back on me not getting things out there in time as far as when I'm going to do a live chat or whatever. And but I just thought I'd come on here real quick. We'll give it a few minutes and see if anybody wants to come in and talk, and we will talk. And if not, then we'll go and do other things. But for now, I just wanted to jump on here and drink some coffee and talk about controls. Just to see if any of you guys have got any kind of upcoming projects you're doing. If there's anything going on, you know. So we'll just give it a few minutes and see here. I'm just going to sit here and see if anybody has anything to say. But drop me some questions down below. I'd like to hear from you. And, we'll go from there. We'll see what's up with everybody. Again, this is completely unscheduled. And no plans really as far as what we're going to do. Nothing really to talk about. I'm just going through looking at things and all that kind of fun stuff. Giving you guys a few minutes. I'm actually going to push the link out to this to a few places just to see if anybody wants to come in and talk. Won't be able to be out here real late, but just to see if anybody is here, anybody wants to jump in and talk, we most certainly can. And I'm just sitting here, guys. Just go ahead and jump in on anything. I'm just sitting here waiting to see. Wait for anybody to jump in. I'm just working on trying to get this couple things pulled up because I'm going to share the links to this live chat. What project you guys got coming up? Anything big? I'd love to hear from you. Who all do we have out there? I'd like to hear from you. We're live right now. And again, I'm just trying to see if we can get anybody to jump in. I'm working on punching and clicking a few things. You guys just go ahead and ignore me for a bit. I just want to make sure that everything here. I found a problem. Now we should be live, guys. I actually found a problem on the settings for this video. For whatever reason, it was set to private, and I don't know why. But that's how we figure things out. Sometimes we just got to do it. We just got to figure it out. So now I'm going to jump in and see if I can share this chat and see if any of you guys want to jump in here and let's just have some conversations about some controls. Let me see, guys. I'm just wanting to pull up a few things. You guys jump in anytime. Like I say, I'm just trying to share this out for the few folks, and just to see if we can get anybody in to this chat. But if you got any questions, let me know. I'm just trying to see. There again, this is kind of late on a Sunday. Don't know if we'll get a lot of people in here or if we get anybody in here. I don't know, but we'll just try and see. I'm going to pull up a couple of things and see what we get. Who do we have out there? I know that this is, again, an unannounced live chat. And I just thought that I'd come on here for a few minutes. And I'm going to throw a couple of more invites out there for anybody to see if anybody wants to jump in. Won't have long tonight, but I figured that if we could, we'll get a few folks in. Hey, who do we have here? Who do we have in the chat? Say hello. Let's see who we got. Just ignore me sitting here punching on my phone. I'm just sharing the link out with a few folks. Okay, who do we have out there? Let's talk some controls, shall we? If you got any upcoming projects going on, again, this is just a something that I'm just throwing out there, just throwing it together, kind of unannounced controls chats. If you got any questions or anything you want to talk about, let me know down in the comments, and we'll see. I see there's a couple of folks here. Who do we have? Say hello, ask a question, just whatever you want to do. Curious what you guys are doing, what kind of projects you guys have coming up, and all of that kind of fun stuff. Just trying to see if I can get a few more folks in here. I'm actually pushing the link out to a few people that I know, and just to see if they might want to join. In fact, some of these folks are Johnson Controls people, very highly skilled, and you never know, they may join in the chats if you guys have questions too. I'm just trying to get some folks in here and just have some conversations. At least that's what my goal is. But tell me about some projects you got going on. What kind of some of the stuff that you got coming up? I know that for us, one of the big things we've been doing with winter just around the corner, we've gotten our buildings transitioned over to steam, or at least the ones that are connected to the central steam plant. And as usual, you got to go through, and you always find things that should have been done a little bit sooner. You always find things that seem to want to break when you first turn them on, and that's just part of the game, I guess. But it's just all part of the fun. That's why we do what we do. And who do we have out there? I see that somebody's watching. I can see you there. Don't be shy. Say hello. This is a chat. This is intended to be a conversation, and hopefully not just me here staring at a camera yakking. I've got plenty of those videos out there too, but hopefully this is one that we can actually have some people talk other than just me, but you never know. I know that has anybody seen the Metasys 15 yet? That's something that I'm hoping to get my hands on here pretty soon. I'm hoping that maybe this month. It depends on how things go. And I know from some of the folks that I know inside Johnson Controls, I've seen the demo site. I like a lot of the features that they have added, what few that I've seen. I like the fact that it's supposed to be running a lot faster than the previous versions. And also, there were some changes with the energy dashboard that kind of expanded that a bit, I believe, as well as some other features. But, hopefully, I know that they're also, I believe they're moving to where you can actually do some equipment configuration live instead of having to go through SCT to do it. You're actually doing some configuration directly within the system. And that way it will simplify things. Instead of having basically to do everything in SCT and do a download, you can do it literally right there on the system and make it a lot easier. I see we got a couple of folks in here. Say hello, leave me a comment over there just to see who we have. If you got any questions, drop those over there as well. I'm just trying to throw a few things out there. Just wanted to jump on here. Again, this is a completely unannounced video. I know that that's why that I know more people would be in here if I was able to actually announce it prior to, but that's just my failing, guys. My schedule's crazy, so I never get to do things the way that I should. But if you got any questions or anything, drop them on in there. I'm just here to talk, to have the chats, to have the conversations. Don't know if we'll be very long tonight just because it's getting later. And as usual, like you all, I'm sure that you guys have got stuff that you're going to be doing in the morning. And this is probably the end of the night for most of us prior to getting up and going to work tomorrow. And I know for me, I got a lot of stuff that we got coming up. We got some devices. I actually had one device. It's an NCE in a building, and it has failed completely. At some point, we're going to end up having to swap it. And the controller portion of the device is still live. It is still running, but it's offline. We're blind to it. The only way to do any kind of changes or anything to it are basically to plug in, make your changes to the the CCT portion, and then that's it. That's the only thing that you can do. Unfortunately, I mean, you know how it is with some of this equipment. But, it is what it is. We do what we got to do to keep stuff running. And, just like everybody else, it's offline, but, we'll get that in a future change once we swap it out. But for now, it's running, so that's the main thing. I've seen a couple of folks come in and out and just wanted to come in here and see. I know that, with Metasys 15, like I say, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. I think that they're moving in the right direction with some of the stuff. I really think eventually what we're going to see out of them is you're going to see graphics on board with the SNEs. And I think they're almost going to have to, just because of the way the market is, with having a lot of sites out there that they don't necessarily need a server, but they want graphics. By getting the graphics onto the SNE, that's going to be a big plus for them. In fact, I know one thing that it's actually gone out to bid, that there is this one institution. I'm not going to say any specifics, but I do know that they're looking at a couple of different options. And for them, one of the negatives, one of the drawbacks, of course, is the cost. They only have like just a small section that they need to operate. And what they're running into is, in order to have graphics, they are going to have to tie it to a server. And I know they're looking at a virtual server through JCI. And as you guys are aware, that's a big expense. But at the same time, the other side of that, and they're trying to decide which direction they go with. If they go with Tritium, if they go with the Tritium system, they can have graphics directly there on the Jace to do what they need to do. Which direction they go, I don't know. That's completely up to them. But I think that from the aspect of what Johnson Controls has, I think that that's getting graphics onto the SNEs directly will be a big benefit to Johnson. I think that would be something they should have already done, in my opinion. But, they just haven't gotten it to that point yet. But hopefully they will. Anybody got any questions about anything? I see there's a couple of folks out there. And again, I'm just here yakking and just trying to see if, what we're going to talk about. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, that's the whole purpose of jumping on here, just to see if anybody wanted to talk. Again, this is unannounced. I should have announced it sooner, but I didn't. But with Metasys, with what they're doing, I think that, again, Johnson Controls, it would be a smart move for them to have it to where you can put graphics directly on the SNE. And I think that they would probably be able to pull more business like that if they were able to have basically single site systems where you've got a network engine, and that's basically it. I mean, there's a lot of sites out there. They don't need a lot of stuff. You get small buildings where it's just a single building. They don't need a server. Single engine, have the graphics and everything right there on that engine, and they're golden. And, I think that's a big market advantage for Johnson Controls. Who do we have here? James. Can you not have graphics on an SNE? MUI can only not run on an 8. My understanding as far as the graphics directly on an SNE, especially depending on which version that you are at, I don't think that you can necessarily run them the same way that you can on a server. At least it's been my experience. And I know that there's a lot of changes at different rev levels and things like that. But as far as putting the graphics directly on an SNE, how are you going to install? How are you going to run? How are you going to get them there? Now, me personally, I've not tried it directly as far as putting the graphics directly on the engines. But at the same time, from what I've been, working with the guys out there from JCI, the SNEs are, you don't run, or at least currently, you're not running graphics directly on the SNEs. You're running them on a server. So that's kind of one of those weird things about them. So yeah, but I'm going to pull up the website. I'm going to see if I can pull up some information on them real quick. There again, guys, I'm just pulling up, trying to see if I can pull up the user view or the software or the manual on them. I personally never put graphics on one of the SNEs, but if any of you guys have, let me know. Let's see here. I'm pulling up the Johnson literature right now, and I'm going to see if it says anything about the graphics. Graphics. All right, let's see what it says about the graphics here. This is literally live, guys, what I'm trying to do here. Metasys release prior to 10.0, advanced graphics application, the sales site. It's as clear as mud. Application without updates at 10.1 did not function. Normal chart release 10.0. It's again clear as mud. This is export. It's getting into export utility and all that. I don't know why it's getting into that, but no, as far as I'm aware, you cannot run graphics directly on the SNEs currently. But if any of you guys out there are, feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, because there again, I use a lot of this as a learning tool myself. Does anyone have any questions about anything while we're here? Graphics. Again, I'm still just looking to see if I find anything. I'm just going to show it to you. I mean, there again, I'm just trying to find out exactly what I can. Graphics package used. That's as clear as mud. One thing about Johnson Controls literature, their help literature, it's not always as clear as it should be. You know, but that's, oh well, you know how that is. Okay. MUI can be, okay, we have somebody here. It says MUI can be used on engines at 14.1. Yes, I know, and as far as browsing to them and everything, but have you had any experience putting graphics directly on the engine? That's what kind of the question is. I have not personally used, been able to put graphics directly on, or do graphics directly on the engines themselves. And part of that is, how do you set up your equipment definitions and objects and things like that directly on the engine? And I think that's kind of where the sticking point is. I know, like at 14.1, SMP is completely off of those engines. I've had guys from JCI that would upgrade an engine, and then they wouldn't be able to do anything with them after they did the upgrade, and because of the fact that SMP is gone. But let us know, Rusty. Have you been able to put graphics directly on any of those engines? That's kind of the question, the unknown, I guess you could say, at least currently for me. And there's a guy, I know one of the guys that's in upper level FSC. I literally have his contact, his cell phone. I rarely use it to ask questions because I don't want to burn that bridge, because I know it could easily get overwhelming for him. But I keep saying that I'm going to end up throwing an email out to him and asking him. I know that that's the direction they're headed. I just don't know if they're there yet. But if you know, let me know. If you've done it, let me know. And that way we can kind of get the info out to everybody else. I see we got a few folks in here. Who all do we have? Say hello. I'm just curious about it. There again, guys, I'm literally doing some of this stuff live. Let's see. I'm just going to ask the question. Let's see here. So the SNE, for example, the SNE user interface allows you, maybe you can formatted over dynamic graphics, real-time support. So I don't know, maybe it's possible. You never know. I think the use case, Rusty, the reuse case is far and few and far between. We have done it for a small office building with a VRF. I can get you the info on it. I'm kind of curious because there again, I know that that's something that I've not done yet myself, which there again, we've got like 3 servers. So anything we do, everything's going to be tied to the server. But I do know that that's the direction that they're heading with it. And, that could play into a lot more stuff, especially when you're getting into some of these sites, like you say, single office buildings and things like that. But, we know that they're headed in that direction if they're not there yet, and they may be there already. I know that since MUI first come out, I think the first iteration was 10, maybe a little sooner than that. I don't remember. I mean, there's been a ton of changes since then. And I know that that's the direction that they're heading. Now, I know with 15, one thing that I do know with 15 is that they're trying to set it up to where you can actually do equipment configuration live on the system. And I think that's a smart thing too. That way you're not having to basically shut your system down to do a download, to add stuff. Anybody got any questions about anything or comments or what some of the projects you got coming up? I know, like I said, we got our pretty much everything switched over for winter. We're running steam in a lot of buildings. We unfortunately still have some older 2-pipe buildings out there. That makes things fun at times, but it is what it is. It's why we do what we do. I'm just sitting here watching the comments, guys. So jump in anytime you want to say anything. So James, I guess you could say you could see some of the comments there from Rusty. You never know. I mean, they may have it out there available now, and I think it would be a great thing if they did, because technology changes. They're going to have to adapt with the time, and everything is going web based. And that's where it is. One thing that I've noticed, or I've had happen recently with the SNEs, and I've had it happen probably 3 times within the last 2 years. For whatever reason, I have had an SNE basically completely blank itself. It would go back to like a brand new out of the box device. Had one happen like last week that had been online a couple of weeks. Actually, no, the device itself had been online for a good long time. And I think it got upgraded like a few weeks prior. Firmware in it got updated and had been running fine. Then all of a sudden, it completely blanked itself. And I've seen that 2 other times. One was on another one where the engine had been installed for a while. And the other time was on one that was new. It hadn't been in no time, and it did it. Not no real big deal, just very odd. And I know part of it is because of the way that it partitions, when you install the software. Okay. Jose says you have used graphics on engine only sites at 14.1, but I had the GC. Okay. Yeah, the partitions. Yeah, I know that's what it was. For whatever reason, it hadn't configured those properly or whatever. I just still found it very odd that you would have one to run for a couple weeks and then do that. So I guess that's part of the answer to that question, Jose. Yeah. But I'm just curious, did they build equipment objects directly on the engine also, on that SNE also, or did they just basically put the points directly on the graphics without going through like an equipment object or whatever? I guess that's kind of a curiosity. That's something to explore a little bit more of at some point. Again, for us, everything we do is connected to the server. In fact, that's literally the first thing that I do with an engine. If we're adding anything, literally the first thing I'll do is I'll get it paired with the engine, and that way I can literally sit back here in the office and do whatever I need to do with it, through the server. But yeah, the partitions on those, I know it's kind of weird how that the SNEs do things. How it partitions one side. It's just real weird. Equipment definitions, but it was in a different way. Interesting. You have sparked my curiosity. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever even get a chance to play with one offline like that, because again, everything we have is directly on the server. I assume that you use SCT for setting up the equipment objects, not definite and everything on it. Honest opinion on Niagara versus Metasys. All right. This is a good question. This is one that I've had a few times, and my honest opinion on them. Each have advantages and each have disadvantages over the other. As far as simplicity, and now before I get too deep into this, I want you to understand that my response could be completely biased, and I'm going to admit my bias. I have more experience with Metasys than what I do Tritium. Yes, I am N4 certified. I've worked with Tritium JACEs. I've literally put a JACE in here a few weeks ago. But I don't have the experience with Tritium that I do with Metasys. However, what I will say is, as far as simplicity for setting things up, especially when you're getting into graphics and things like that with MUI, my personal opinion is that Metasys is a little more simplistic. That does not mean Niagara is bad in any way, shape, or form. Again, both have advantages, both have disadvantages. within like the reporting. There are some, in my opinion, some advantages with Metasys on some of the way that reporting can be done, the way that we use them, some of the reports that we pull, some of the data that we regularly pull out of our system. I think that Metasys has a little bit of an advantage on it. Another advantage that Metasys has when it comes to schedules, for example. With Metasys, with MUI in particular, you can actually go through on, for example, a floor, like if you got all your VAVs scheduled, you can go through and literally you can check which schedule you want to add a single exception to. You can then go back and then select a different group of rooms to add a different exception schedule to. That's something that currently within Tridium is not there. I could very easily see that as being something added in the future, obviously because these two companies are competitive, as far as what they do. And there again, there could be some user of Tridium out there that's already done it. There could be some company out there, they've got all their, all the different tools and things out there. How each of these companies load things up as far as some of the tools. It really depends if you're trying to decide. It really depends on your personal preferences. I would think about the support that I had in my area. If you're going to go with Metasys, you're obviously going to be locked in probably to a branch somewhere. If you're going to go with a Niagara-based system, it's going to give you some flexibility as far as who you go with, particularly if there are multiple companies in your area. And so, that's part of it as well. Don't let either one of them fool you by trying to convince you that these systems cannot work together, because I know that that is something that happens out there, that a lot of these companies try to do, is they try to get people to get locked in with their particular company and only their particular company. That is not necessarily how these systems work. If you like the front end that Metasys has with some of the reporting features, the trending features and things like that, you can go with a Metasys front end, and literally you can, with the way that Metasys is now, you could literally put JACEs everywhere and have them pulled into your system if those JACEs are configured properly. That's the main thing, is you need craftsmen to go in and configure your system to make it functional for you. If you're the one that's doing it, again, learn as much about both systems as you possibly can, and it will make your life much easier. And it's also going to help you to recognize when somebody's trying to lie to you too about what's out there and what they can do. But, it's a completely, that's completely up to you. There's certainly some advantages that Tridium has over Metasys. And then again, there's some advantages that Metasys has over Tridium. That's probably the easiest way I can put that one. I know it's not a great answer, but there again. But again, remember, if you go with Metasys, you're going to be locked in with a branch somewhere. With Niagara, you've got a little more variability in who you could go with. And again, you can go with Metasys for your front end, and you could go with a bunch of JACEs out there, and there's ways to make them play nice, if you know what I mean. But anybody else got any questions? I just wanted to jump on here for just a bit. I know that as technology, building automation changes more all the time. Any more thoughts about some of the new stuff that's out there that's coming onto the market? I know one of the things is it's a competitive market out there. The big thing for across the board is pricing. I mean, I think prices for stuff, regardless of who you go with, it is just super expensive, no matter what you do. I like the fact that, there's a variety of different things out there with different people doing different things, but every company out there is struggling for help. I've not talked to a controls company out there that is not looking for people. I don't think it exists. And unfortunately, there's not enough support. There's not enough vocational school support or anything like that to really help them out. Anybody else got any thoughts on anything? Just wanted to come on here for a few minutes and just to chat with you guys. We've been going for a little over a half hour, but I'm going to give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody wants to ask any questions on anything. And if not, we may jump off. So if you got any questions, throw them out there. And guys, also, I know that most of you are probably like me. You end up drinking a lot of coffee. Check the link down below and check out use my link, get you some Blackout coffee. Trust me, you won't be disappointed in that coffee. Let's see. At the branch I work at, we have lost 3 controls techs. Yes. And let me guess, they were probably overwhelmed. I'm willing to bet you they probably had so much on them that they didn't know which way they were going. That is a very common trend for techs. I mean, that's just an unfortunate reality. They get beat up like crazy. You get overloaded with things that they cannot keep up with. Yep, it's an absolute mess. Wherever you see a controls tech, you're going to see somebody that's overwhelmed. I mean, they're trying to run so many jobs, they're trying to do so many things. I know we've had buildings going before, we've had projects going. We literally had like 5 buildings going at one time, and there was one controls tech trying to do 5 buildings. And I'm talking complete terminal changeouts. That is impossible. That is a physical impossibility, but unfortunately, it's something that we do see in this field too much. You get the corporate levels that don't necessarily pay attention to or understand what their people are needing. But anybody else got anything? There again, I'm just throwing it out there, guys. When you guys stop answering questions or asking questions, we'll maybe do something different. There again, this is very random. I just jumped on here just to see if anybody wanted to chat. At some point, I hope to get to the point of announcing them prior. So if anybody's got any questions, throw them out there, guys. And again, check out Blackout Coffee down in the description. I appreciate you, Matt. I appreciate you watching. I hope to do some more videos too. I'm really getting overwhelmed right now with a lot of the stuff that I do. 30 minutes to VAV quotas too. Yeah, that's nuts. If everything goes smoothly, but at the same time, how often do things go smoothly? There's always something. You roll into change out a VAV or to do something, and next thing you know, you look and where that VAV is right over top of like a lab table or something like that. And you pop the ceiling tile and you've got, 20 electrical conduits wrapped every which way you could imagine around the thing. And, it's impossible. I've got pictures of VAVs. It is a physical impossibility to access them because of their placement and because of the conduit that's around them. And I guarantee you talk to any controls tech that's been out there for any length of time, and they've seen them too. And 30 minutes on something like that, no, you can forget it. In fact, we've had some, in fact, I know of some right now that if the box ever goes, there's nothing we can do. One is in a building. It was newly constructed at that time, and I remember bringing it up to the project manager, to everybody. We took pictures and everything. And the box is literally behind a steel I-beam above a hard ceiling. There is zero access to it. We told them before they finished this, that needs to be relocated. They never relocated it. If it ever fails, somebody is going to have an absolute mess. They're going to have to cut through decorative sheetrock, a lot of ornament, I can't even say the word, a lot of fancy stuff. Let's just put it that way. Just to be able to access that box, you're going to have to set up scaffolding. And even then, it's going to be a pain to access it. And whether they can get to it across that steel I-beam is a completely different discussion. Because there again, they put the box in, and there's other things that they had to have added, and it's basically encased in metal all the way around it. But anyways, anybody got anything else they want to throw out there? I'm just jumping around. I think I'm going to shut it down. Probably it's 8:21 now. I'm not going to go past 8:30 because I've got some other stuff that is what my time. But I'm at least by 8:30, I'm probably going to shut it down. We've been going for a little over 40 minutes. But if anybody got anything, shoot, just throw it out there. You're taking a class this December. What class are you taking, Matt? Is it CCT? Is it Tritium? Medicis? What kind of class are you taking? It'll take just a minute. And I know you guys are seeing a little bit of a delay, like from the time that you ask your question until the time I'm able to respond. Tritium. Word of advice, and everybody in here will probably tell you this too. The week that you take that Tritium, that N4 certification, if that's what you're taking, I assume you're taking the N4 certification and not just the operator's class. But if you're taking that N4 certification class, clear out that entire week. Your phone, turn it off. Don't let people bother you. You need to focus just on that class. It's a great class, but it's a challenge. It can be a challenge. It's a good class. And again, if you've been working with it any, I don't know if you've had any, if you've been working with Tritium any, but if you have, you've already got a little bit of an understanding of it, you'll be fine. But if you're new to Tritium, clear your schedule. Trust me. When I went through it, I spent the time during the day. I went through the class, and then when it's literally as soon as I would get home of the afternoon, I had that book open and I had my head buried in that book, and I did well. I got a very good grade in it. And of course, your final for that week is basically you're going to have to build an entire system, including graphics, a dashboard, everything. And that's going to be your final for that class. At least the one that I had. Now I had the Tritium University, the straight Honeywell Tritium University class. I'm sure some of the different manufacturers, they may have it a little bit different as far as what they do. I know you get like the FX branded or Siemens branded or something. They may do something a little different. I don't really know. But the one that I had was the pure Honeywell Vicon Tritium. And good class. If you don't have a lot of experience with it, like I say, clear your schedule. Even if you have a lot of experience with it during the time that you're in that class during the day, shut that phone off. Don't let people bother you. Trust me. And then study. We had access to the system for the entire week, 24/7. Once we had access to that system, we had access. Until it was turned off. And literally, I went through and practiced because I knew what was coming up later on in the week. Let's see here. You do system level install programming on JCI, Distech controllers. No system level experience. I believe ours will be Distech flavored. Interesting. I don't know the specifics about what they're going to do out there. I know they're going to show you some of the tools. I do know, like with FX, and I'm sure all of them do this, like with FX, you've got some of the tools that are helpful, basically. I know, like with FX, which that's the branded version Workbench that I've got on my laptop, you actually have some of the tools in there where, like, if you're going to set up a new station, it's just selection tree stuff of what you want on that station, and then it automatically does a lot of the configuration for you. The same thing like in Vicon, if you're just a bare bones Honeywell, and this is what we had to do in class, you actually had to go and grab all of the individual components and drag them and add them to your station. But with the FX, literally you just selected, I want this, and then it went and got all the components needed for that and put them on there for you. And I'm sure the Distech is probably the same way with Siemens or all the others. But, good luck. But again, clear your schedule. If you're obviously you've had some experience with it, you understand what you're trying to control with that, but still clear your schedule. If you're controls, which obviously you're a controls guy, trust me, turn your phone off, tell them to leave you alone. Everybody leave you alone and just focus on that class. Okay. Don't let them bug you. Trust me. Everybody out there is going to tell you that. But it's a good class. You're going to learn a lot. Trust me. You're going to learn a lot. And the thing about the class too, that class can only cover just like that much of what tritium is. Tritium is huge. There is so much more out there that tritium can do than is covered in that class. Again, and you'll get more into that. And it's a very good class. It's a very good class. Another thing too, make your little notepad. Make sure that like all of your passphrases, your passwords, and don't get them confused, but make sure you have those correctly, that you save that somewhere that you don't lose it. In fact, we had some in the class that I had, they actually had to go in and reset their passwords. I didn't mind because I'd seen stuff like that before. So I had copies of mine, make sure that I didn't lose my password, passphrases, and all that. But that did happen. So just make sure that you keep up with that. There's a difference between your platform and your station, which you'll get all that. Some stuff, again, you're going to run through it so fast, your head's going to spin. And if you have access to the system to where you can practice, you might try practicing. I think for me, I rebuilt my station like 3 times on that first day just to get it burned into my head. And there again, focus in on it. And that way, when it comes to that class on Friday, because they're going to give you that full day, that last day of your class to do your test. I mean, that's literally how it was for us. It was a full day. This is your system that you need to build. Here you go, build it. And that was it. That was the test. And then you were graded based upon how you did. You had the graphics. You had to do everything. I mean, you had to write the basic programming. You had to pull the points in from the devices. You had to add schedules, yada, 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 all this kind of fun stuff. Then you had to build graphics for everything. Syntax matters. It screwed me up on one thing that I did, and it was a little bit of a waste of time for me until I figured out where I screwed up. The difference between a colon and a semicolon, trying to type in some syntax, that screwed me up. And I'm like, why doesn't this work? Where am I messing up on this? Went right back, read through it again, because it was for us. I mean, we were open book, or, we were able to use our lab books. And I was reading through where we had previously done something similar in the lab, and I seen where I screwed up, and it was between a colon and a semicolon. I can't remember what it was, but corrected that, boom, worked perfectly. And, I run into that kind of stuff, and you may too, but just remember that kind of stuff does matter. But good luck either way. You'll be fine. You'll be fine, but be ready to study. Anybody got anything else? Anything real quick? I know we're about at 8:30 right now, so I'm going to give it just a couple seconds to let anybody see if they got anything they want to say. We got just a couple more minutes, and then I'm probably going to jump off here, at least for the night. And I'm going to try to take some time at some point, I don't know when, but actually try to start scheduling some of these live chats to where you guys have a little better understanding as far as when they will be, and we'll go from there. But, that's my fault. I turn the camera on. The way my schedule is just completely crazy. And I just sometimes sit down here, turn the camera on, go do a live chat, and here we are. And that's what this one is. Anybody got anything they want to add real quick? Anything they want to say? Question they want to ask? That's what I'm just jumped on here real quick to do. Just a few folks remaining. But Matt, thank all you guys, each of you guys that were here. I appreciate it. Matt, Jose, Todd, L. Cross Jr. I appreciate all you guys coming in. Rusty, James, appreciate all y'all coming in and chatting with me for a few minutes. Hopefully next time we'll have a little bit better time frame. And, but yeah, appreciate you, James. I appreciate you guys being in here, and I hope to get some more videos going. Right now, my schedule is crazy. I'm sure just like y'all, I got a lot of stuff going on. One of the other things I do is teach CPR classes, and I've got some classes coming up too. So that's something else that takes up my time as well. But guys, we'll go ahead and call it. thanks for watching. Jump down to below, and this is a shameless plug, guys. Go down below, check out some Blackout Coffee. Use my link. You won't be disappointed in the coffee. If you like good coffee, if you like me, you like good coffee, this is my cheap sales pitch. Check it out. It's linked down in the description, guys. And they got some, if you like flavored coffee, if you like just traditional coffee, yeah, it's a shameless plug. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on my channel, and we will jump off of here and see you guys next time.